The ontology of truth in Fullmetal Alchemist. There is a moment in Fullmetal Alchemist where everything the story has been building toward quietly collapses into a single terrifying idea. A white void, a silent presence, a figure with no face, yet somehow it is your own. And then it speaks, I am the world, I am the universe, I am God, I am truth, and I am you. This is not a dramatic line, it is not written for spectacle. It is a philosophical detonation, because in that moment, the story removes the final illusion that separates the individual from reality itself. Truth is not a god you can rebel against. Truth is not a villain you can defeat. Truth is not even something you can escape. Truth is what remains when every lie you tell yourself is stripped away. And the most unsettling part? Truth never lies. To understand truth, we have to immediately reject the most common mistake. Truth is not a character. It appears in the narrative, yes. It speaks, it interacts, it judges, but these are not the defining traits of a character. A character has motivations, desires, internal conflict, the capacity to change. Truth has none of these. Truth does not want anything. Truth does not grow. Truth does not decide. Truth simply is. This places truth in a completely different ontological category, closer to a law of physics, a universal constant, or a structural property of existence itself. But even those comparisons fall short, because truth is not just external reality. Truth is internal reality reflected back at you. One of the most important design choices in Fullmetal Alchemist is deceptively simple. Truth looks like you, not symbolically, not metaphorically, literally, a blank white silhouette that perfectly mirrors the person standing before it. This is not aesthetic minimalism, this is psychological precision. Because what truth represents is not just knowledge, it is self-confrontation. The psychological mechanism, self-recognition without filters. In everyday life, human beings rely on psychological defenses to maintain stability. Denial, rationalization, projection, repression. These mechanisms allow us to avoid guilt, protect identity, maintain a coherent sense of self. Truth removes all of them instantly. When Edward stands before truth, he is not being judged by an external authority. He is being forced into complete self-recognition, absolute awareness of consequence, total accountability. There is no narrative you can tell yourself in that space, no justification, no excuse, only reality. To fully understand this encounter, we need to bring in Carl Jung's concept of the shadow. The shadow is everything you refuse to acknowledge about yourself, the unconscious aspects of your personality, the parts of you that contradict your ideal self. For most people, the shadow remains hidden. It influences behavior indirectly, through impulses, through emotional reactions, through self-sabotage, but it is rarely seen directly. Truth is that direct encounter. Why truth is not just the shadow, but its final form. At first glance, truth seems identical to the shadow, but there is a key difference. The shadow is distorted, emotional, partially hidden. Truth is complete, precise, unavoidable. Truth is what happens when the shadow is no longer unconscious. It is the moment when every hidden motive becomes visible. Every lie collapses, every contradiction resolves into clarity. This is why truth speaks with such calm certainty. It does not argue, it does not persuade, because it does not need to. If truth is the entity, then the gate is the system. The gate of truth is one of the most symbolically dense constructs in the entire narrative. It represents all knowledge, all possibilities, all structural laws of existence. But more importantly, it represents the limit of what the human mind can process. The paradox of total knowledge. Human cognition depends on limitation. We understand the world by filtering information, categorizing experiences, simplifying complexity. The gate removes those filters. It exposes the individual to infinite information, infinite connections, infinite structure. This is not enlightenment, it is overload. Why seeing the truth causes trauma. Every character who passes through the gate experiences physical loss, psychological shock, existential disorientation. This is not punishment in the traditional sense. It is a direct consequence of encountering totality. The human brain is not designed to process infinity, absolute knowledge, complete interconnectedness, so it breaks. Or more precisely, it restructures itself through loss. Equivalent exchange begins as a scientific principle. To obtain something of equal value must be lost. At first it appears rational, fair, even comforting. It suggests balance, predictability, control. But truth transforms this principle into something far more unsettling. Equivalent exchange as psychological law. When truth enforces equivalent exchange, it does not operate on material value, numerical balance, logical equivalence. Instead, it operates on psychological significance, symbolic weight, existential relevance. This is why the price is never random. It is always personal, targeted, irreversible. The hidden function forced self-confrontation. Truth's exchanges are designed to do one thing: force the individual to confront the exact flaw that led them there, not abstractly, not intellectually, but permanently. Edward begins the story with a belief that is both admirable and dangerous. The world can be understood, and what can be understood can be controlled. This belief is rooted in intelligence, discipline, curiosity, but it evolves into something else: cognitive arrogance, alchemy as extension of the ego. Alchemy is not just a tool, it is an extension of Edward's identity. Through alchemy, he can reshape matter, impose order, assert dominance over the physical world. This creates a subtle psychological shift from "I understand the world" to "I can control the world," and eventually "I am not limited by the world." The fatal assumption. Edward's greatest mistake is not attempting human transmutation. It is believing that knowledge is enough, logic is sufficient, emotion can be overridden. He treats reality as a system, but reality is not just structure, it is boundary. The transmutation scene is not just a narrative turning point, it is a psychological implosion. Everything Edward believes breaks, contradicts itself, collapses into failure. What actually happens psychologically? In that moment, Edward experiences loss of control. The system does not respond as expected. Cognitive dissonance. His beliefs no longer match reality. Shock and trauma. The consequences are immediate and irreversible. Forced awareness. He cannot deny what has happened. Why truth appears here. Truth does not appear randomly. It appears at the exact moment when illusion collapses, reality becomes undeniable, the ego loses its foundation. Truth is not summoned by the ritual. Truth is summoned by the failure of the self. At this stage, we understand something critical. Truth is not punishing Edward. Truth is revealing him. Every loss, every consequence, every interaction is not about enforcing rules. It is about dismantling illusion. And Edward's journey has only just begun, because what comes next is far more difficult than loss. It is acceptance. If truth were simply a mirror, it would be terrifying, but passive. But truth is not passive. Truth acts. It takes. It reshapes lives with a precision that feels almost personal. And this is where many people misunderstand it. They call truth cruel, they call it unfair, they even call it evil. But that interpretation only exists if you assume that truth is judging. Truth is not judging, truth is correcting. At first glance, the punishments imposed by truth appear poetic in a way that feels intentional, almost like mockery. The mother who wanted a child loses her ability to bear one. The visionary leader loses his sight. The brothers who tried to reclaim a body lose their own. This is often interpreted as irony. But irony implies narrative intent. Truth does not create irony for effect, it creates alignment. From irony to precision, truth's exchanges are not random losses. They are structurally relevant, psychologically targeted, symbolically exact. Each consequence is tied directly to the individual's core desire, the flawed belief behind that desire, the method used to pursue it. This is not punishment, this is forced confrontation with contradiction. Izumi Curtis represents one of the clearest examples of truth's system. Her desire is deeply human, she wants her child back. Her action is equally human, she refuses to accept loss. But her method is where the fracture occurs. She attempts to bypass the natural boundary between life and death. The psychological core refusal of finality. Grief, in psychological terms, is the process of accepting irreversible loss, integrating absence into identity. Izumi refuses this process. Instead of acceptance, she chooses control, reversal, defiance of reality. This creates a psychological contradiction. She wants life by rejecting the conditions that make life meaningful. Truth's response, internal collapse. Truth takes her internal organs, not randomly, not violently for the sake of punishment, but precisely. Her body becomes weakened, incomplete, permanently altered. More importantly, she becomes physically incapable of ever carrying life again. Why this is not cruel but absolute. If truth had simply taken something external, money, strength, status, Izumi could still maintain her illusion, but by targeting her body, truth ensures the lesson is permanent. The contradiction cannot be ignored, the desire cannot be repeated. Her punishment is not about suffering, it is about eliminating the possibility of denial. Roy Mustang's case is different. He does not perform human transmutation out of grief, he is forced into it, but truth still enforces a consequence. This reveals something critical: truth does not operate on morality. Truth operates on participation. The identity of Roy Mustang. Mustang is defined by vision, ambition, long-term planning. He is a strategist, a man who believes the future can be shaped, the system can be reformed, power can be directed toward justice. His entire identity is built on seeing what others cannot, the lost blindness. Truth takes his eyesight. And not randomly, but symbolically and psychologically, the man who sees the future can no longer see at all. The man who leads others, must now rely on them. The man who controls outcomes loses control of perception. The deeper function forced dependency. Mustang's transformation is not just physical, it is relational. He is forced into reliance on others, trust in those around him, acceptance of limitation. This dismantles his identity as a singular force of change and replaces it with a collective existence. Truth does not take arbitrarily. It removes the exact mechanism that allowed the individual to avoid reality. This aligns closely with a psychological concept known as radical acceptance. What is radical acceptance? Radical acceptance is the understanding that reality exists independently of your desires. Suffering is not caused by reality itself. It is caused by resistance to reality, refusal to accept limitation, attachment to impossible outcomes. Truth as enforced acceptance. In therapy, radical acceptance is taught gradually. Through reflection, conversation, emotional processing, truth eliminates all of that. It imposes acceptance instantly through irreversible consequence, physical embodiment, existential shock. Why this feels cruel? From a human perspective, this process feels brutal because there is no transition period, there is no emotional cushioning, there is no negotiation. But from a structural perspective, truth is simply removing illusion. Cognitive distortions are the mental patterns that allow individuals to justify irrational actions, maintain false beliefs, avoid uncomfortable truths. Examples include, I can fix this if I try hard enough. The rules don't apply in this case. This outcome won't happen to me. Every character who performs human transmutation is operating under one or more of these distortions. Truth's function, immediate correction. Truth does not argue against these distortions. It does not explain why they are wrong. It simply creates a reality where the distortion is no longer sustainable. This is psychological correction at its most extreme. Example, the Elric brothers. Edward and Alphonse believe love justifies their actions, knowledge makes them capable, determination guarantees success. Truth responds by creating a reality where love cannot reverse death, knowledge cannot bypass limitation, determination cannot undo consequence. After truth's intervention, something important happens. The characters do not simply suffer, they change. The two possible outcomes. After confronting truth, individuals move in one of two directions: resistance, clinging to old beliefs, refusing to accept reality, deepening psychological conflict; acceptance, integrating the experience, redefining identity, moving forward with awareness. Why suffering is necessary. Without consequence, there is no transformation, growth, restructuring of belief. Suffering forces attention, reflection, adaptation. It breaks the old framework so a new one can emerge. After his encounter with truth, Edward is no longer the same person, but he has not yet changed completely. This is important, because transformation is not immediate. Trauma without understanding. Initially, Edward experiences guilt, anger, confusion. He knows something went wrong, but he does not yet understand why, so he responds by doubling down on alchemy, trying to fix the damage, searching for a solution. Persistence of the ego. Even after losing his arm, his leg, his brother's body, Edward still believes there must be a way to fix this. This is the ego's final defense, the refusal to accept limitation. Truth does not force immediate enlightenment. It allows individuals to struggle, search, fail repeatedly. This is crucial because understanding cannot be imposed. It must be reached. The long path to acceptance. Edward's journey is not about regaining what he lost. It is about understanding why he lost it, accepting that it cannot be undone, redefining what matters. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe.